YouTube. This is Amanda with Amanda Finds Freedom, and today we have the wonderful Jack.
Hey guys.
From Raw Tropical Living, which is how most of you know me. And we're going to talk about the vagus nerve today, which is part of your parasympathetic nervous system, which is your rest and digest system. That's probably what you've heard of, the rest and digest system, versus your sympathetic nervous system, which is your fight or flight system, which is more so what's activated when you're under stress, and especially under chronic stress, which is kind of what goes on in modern society. So that's the one that kind of becomes the issue. And I have a lot of personal experience with that. So there's actually a book that I absolutely adore. It's called Activate Your Vagus Nerve. I'll link it below. I always forget the author's name because it's a name that's a little bit weird. And I know I've recommended it to a few of you already. So the really important part of that book, though, are these charts. So I sort of have a list of hacks that you can use to activate your vagus nerve. Some of them are free things that you can do at home, and then other things are things that would involve going out and getting a massage or acupressure or something, acupuncture, something like that. So I think we'll focus on what you can do at home today, because those are probably a separate conversation. These are things that you can do while you're watching the video if you want. So go right ahead. So the first one, and some of them are actually quite funny. I've always wondered if Jack hears like all kinds of interesting noises coming from my bathroom. The first one that they recommend in the chart to do daily, they say 2 times daily because it's easy to do just when you're brushing your teeth, is gargling.
Right.
So gargling water. I keep salt water by my sink for this reason, so that I can rinse after brushing my teeth with salt water. It's helpful for your gum health, but also if you gargle with salt water, it can help prevent getting colds, which right now I would really like to do. So that's something that I do 2 times daily.
Is there like any, I mean, not an exact amount, but is there a certain amount of time you should do it, or?
They didn't have any recommendations. I feel like I read this somewhere, but who knows, because I have OCD tendencies, so I could have literally invented this myself. I sing the alphabet in my head and then rinse. So that's how long I gargle, however long it takes you. Yeah, you can do it just whenever you brush your teeth. It's nice and easy. And then the other thing that you can do whenever you brush your teeth is, this one might be a little rough for some of you, or this might even be triggering, so feel free to skip this one depending on what your personal experiences are, history is. But your gag reflex, when it's activated, activates your vagus nerve, which activates your parasympathetic rest and digest system, so that helps you calm down. So you can activate your gag reflex by brushing your tongue, which you should probably be doing anyways, when each time you brush your teeth. But you can brush it once back on the left side, cause the gag reflex, and once on the right side, cause the gag reflex, and then you're done. That's something that you need to like be deep throating.
Right.
Didn't I say deep throat on YouTube? You don't need to deep throat your toothbrush. I think that one could be a little sketchy for some people, though, depending on what they've done in the past, or how strong your gag reflex is. If you're someone who like actually might throw up, then maybe that's not the one for you.
I think I could do, the only thing though, I mean, everybody's probably done it at some point and had to put their finger in their mouth to throw up when they're sick. And when I'm not sick, I think I could do it with, I don't think it would make me nauseated.
Really?
I think it's always in the past, if I've stuck my finger in my mouth or made myself do that, it's because I'm already feeling bad. But I guess just by anything, just mistakenly, I haven't done it on purpose before because I didn't know about this, but yeah, I've done it when I'm not nauseated, and I've, done something that would cause me to kind of gag, and it didn't make me throw up.
Yeah.
But everybody's different on that, so that's a valid point for sure,
Yeah, I would think someone who has a history of bulimia, that was that type of bulimia.
Oh, okay.
I would think that could be maybe a little psychologically triggering. I actually, because I had histories of different types of eating disorders, and just disordered eating as a whole. I tried to be bulimic, but I couldn't. I never could get myself to throw up. Like I did it with medication maybe once or twice, but like
Right.
I wasn't gonna do that all the time. So I literally just wasn't good at making myself throw
Oh,
up.
wow.
I've never done that. Um, so yeah, take that one with a grain of salt. If you need to, some salt from the gargling, decide whether you should do that one. But potentially 2 times daily while you're brushing your teeth. I do it. It's easy just because I brush my tongue anyways. So it was just one of
Is this enough? Both of those, the salt gargling and the kind of gag thing, are both twice a day things?
Yeah.
Optimal?
Yeah. I don't think that was necessarily so much like this is the number of times a day to do it optimally. It was more like this makes sense to do when you brush your teeth.
And something you'll remember, and something that you'll actually do.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
It's easier to incorporate new habits if they're attached to other habits that are already very ingrained in you. So if you're trying to add in a new habit and it's something that you can attach to, like brushing your teeth, like you've done your whole life pretty much.
And you know how you can make that even easier, because I was doing that. You may have even seen a couple of little Post-its around the house, like when I was trying to remember breathing all the time. You could do that on your bathroom mirror. You could put a little Post-it up there that just says, remember to do this. To kind of get you in the habit of starting to do it. Yeah,
he's got reminders around the house to calm the F down. Which I think a lot of people could benefit from. I appreciate the reminders. Lots of mindfulness in this house. It's a very good mindful house. The next one, and this one says to do 2 times daily. Again, I'm not sure that's it. I'm not sure it has to be that specific, but it recommends humming, actually. And then more specifically, if you want, you can hold the Om noise just for as long as an exhale, and just do that like twice, and you will have helped to activate your vagus nerve, help to activate your parasympathetic nervous system, help to calm the F down. And we all need more of that right now. So that one's pretty cut and dry, especially if you do like any kind of breath work or meditation each day. I think that could be attached to that, or a yoga practice maybe. It would be pretty easy to just add that on in the mornings or evenings. The next one I don't do because I'm a wuss. But they recommend cold showers.
I've done them a few times. They're tough. I admire those people that can do them, but gosh, they're tough. I hate cold water. I hate cold water more than anything in the world.
Were you better at those when you were in Costa Rica?
Well, no, I was actually even worse with them down there.
Really?
I could stand cold water better when I was a kid. We would go swimming all the time. But I actually did them in Costa Rica, and for about 3 or 4 days when I was in the mountains visiting that place that time, and that was a cold shower. It was cold. It is kind of a mind over matter thing. If you just kind of get in, you just say, I'm getting in there and I'm doing it. I don't care. You're not going to die.
Yeah.
And once the initial shock gets, I'm saying this though that I haven't done it in 5 years, but intellectually, once the initial shock gets over, it's not as bad as it sounds, but still, it's tough.
I feel like that's kind of, you just have to decide to do it, and like your brain is like, okay, if we're doing this, every cell in your body is like, fine, I'm on board, I don't like it, but we're doing it, so there's no getting out of it. And I think a lot of things in life benefit from that level of
definitely
decision. Like with your diet, there's a certain point, if you're like, well, this is just what I'm doing, then
they say there's so many things. If you can force yourself to do it, if you can force yourself to take a cold shower every day for a month, that it does something in your head too. It switches over to, you have a certain mentality. I'm not saying it magically changes you or something, obviously, if you stop doing it, but it does kind of do something. But
yeah, it definitely, it sort of works your ability to be disciplined to do what you say you're going to do. That's kind of like a muscle, like to be able to stick to your words or stick to your commitments. which is one of the reasons, in my opinion, why yo-yo dieting is so bad, because you're kind of training your brain or your body to think over and over again, okay, you said you were going to do this thing, and then you kind of fell off the wagon. And so you almost like are training yourself to not trust yourself in that scenario, versus this would be the opposite, training yourself to trust yourself, because you're just pushing through these cold showers, which isn't, I mean, that's not why it works for the vagus nerve. Apparently it says you can just end your daily shower with just 1 minute of cold water, which I will do a lot more often. That's much more doable for me.
Yeah, definitely.
So I'm much more willing to do that. And it just says as cold as possible. So whatever your shower goes to, because I know in Florida I have a lot of places where honestly the shower just doesn't get that cold, and then it's no problem. I'm like, yeah, I can do cold showers.
This was in the mountains. This was mountain water. I mean, it was just kind of, it felt like ice coming out of my body.
I know exactly what you're talking about. I was thinking of like Hako, like you
don't be afraid if certain parts of your anatomy go away for a little bit. It's liable to happen because it is cold.
We're all adults here.
But it is kind of just making a commitment, even as far like just getting in there. You're not going to die. It's not, I mean, no. I'm not a doctor. I don't know that there's any condition that it could, but it's not going to be fun. It's not going to be comfortable, but it's not, you can almost kind of reinforce yourself. That's what I did to myself to eventually even try it, was to kind of tell myself, start step by step. Okay, look, you're not going to die. You step in there as bad as it is. You can also too, you can jump out the second you're uncomfortable, or you can turn it off. So it's doable. Even if you really have an aversion to cold water, you can do it.
Yeah, I would also add, just because it's the internet and there's someone who could mistake some of this, you're not going to die from a cold shower. If you go jump in an iced over lake, that's a different conversation. Yeah. Please don't be stupid.
That's where you get into more of the breathing, so you really need to know what you're doing.
yeah, exactly. If you're going to explore that, just work up to it.
Right.
Work with someone who knows, who's an expert in that. It says practice breathing through the shock of the temperature change, which is pretty much exactly what you're saying. And then as this becomes easier, and then it gets a little more aggressive, like you can increase this 30 to 60 seconds every 3 days until your entire shower is in cold water. Again, you know, if you want to do just the last minute or even 30 seconds, and even if like, you know, it's winter right now, and I know some of you live in like up north, like Wisconsin or Canada or New York, like that water is going to be pretty darn cold if you put it as cold as possible. So just like make it colder maybe for 30 seconds.
That's a strategy too, is to start and just like you could start at lukewarm and just make it a little bit cooler each time until you got down to cold as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Or start even within the shower itself. You could do a number of things. You could take the first shower lukewarm and then a little cooler each day. Or you could start with the water running lukewarm on you and just or you could start with the water running hot on you, gradually get it to lukewarm, gradually get it cooler till you're all the way down.
I've also made this probably really wasteful, so somebody's going to hate me for this, but I've made the bathroom like nice and steamy before, and then made the water itself colder to get like my cold shower, but to not be in a cold room getting a cold shower. Again, I'm kind of a wuss, so it's probably not worse than taking a bath, because when you fill a bathtub, that's an awful lot of water too. And those work great for stress too. They're not on this particular list, but like I'm a big advocate of baths for calming the F down. So we're having a fun video today. The next one is pretty obvious, I think, if you've studied any kind of meditation or breath work, just deep breathing. And again, it just says recommends 2 times daily. Practice 3 to 5 minutes of deep breathing in a quiet space before each meal. Okay, so, it says 3 times daily. I read that wrong. Before each meal, this will help you calm down and improve your digestion each meal. That's actually really awesome timing. Also, though, if you're having issues with food, with anything around food, whether it's a new diet, new eating patterns that you're trying, new lifestyle, or if you're trying to cope with food addiction issues, this can really help you stay present while you're doing something as honestly intimate as eating. So I think that kind of has multiple uses, like most of the things on this list do, but I like that one a lot because it has multiple uses. And honestly, you're practicing your deep breathing if you're taking cold showers.
Oh yeah. Honestly, I think the deep breathing you can benefit from. That's why I have a lot of these things around here. Mm-hmm. Like I'll just stop. Like, you could do that multiple times during the day. Maybe you don't always have the time to properly sit and take, several minutes, but even a minute, 30 seconds, there's value to that in doing it all throughout the day. So I really like that one a lot.
Yeah, or like what you were talking about the other day with like, if you're just like doing a basic chore, like doing the dishes or something, you could practice some deep breathing while you're doing that and just like take a moment to kind of recenter and to be present. It's hard to be very anxious and very fight or flight if you're truly just present in the moment and with what is. I think that sort of comes in when when our brain is living in like the past or future, even if it's like a 5-minute difference, like it feels still like the present kind of, but really whatever we create in our brain feels like the present. Yeah. So that's one of the reasons it's so hard to actually be here now.
Yeah, it is.
Something that I do when I practice deep breathing, I will take random like deep breaths throughout the day if I feel like I need to check in with myself, but and I don't do this every day, but probably every couple of days I take a few minutes and do what I would just call some breath work, deep breathing. I did this even regardless of the vagus nerve thing though, because I really like practicing visualization while I do that. And that's, I think good, yeah. We talked about this briefly because I do some different things than you do, but and like, again, maybe it's the OCD, maybe it's, I don't know, I'm a hippy dippy person. Like I'll take that moment to sort of like visualize myself as just like this one being in like the expanse of the universe, basically. So whether you want to visualize yourself like out by Pluto or amongst the stars or amongst the forest or ocean or what have you, or even where you are right at that minute, but sort of like if you were spanned out like from a bird's eye view. I feel like that's been an interesting way for me to sort of ground myself spiritually and like psychologically, and in a way also kind of to gain perspective in the moment. So I really like doing that. I also think visualization is great for setting and achieving goals, but that's another video.
I used to include, it was almost like a meditation where I had a visualization meditation I used to do. That's been years ago, but yeah, it's very beneficial. Very beneficial.
What was it? Was there like something specific?
I would sit down and I would start breathing, and it was always the same one. It was like I would go down this path. I was going down this path through the woods. Then I would find an opening, and then I would take my clothes off and sit on the beach. There was usually like a waterfall. I would sit on the beach. There was enough within the water or either on the beach. It was a beach, but I would get this mud and I would rub it all over my body, almost like it pulled out toxins or it was healing. Yeah. And then I would eventually slide into the water and let it release or get under the waterfall. And there was always, I could get this to go into another video. In fact, it would get emotional sometimes. I would see this animal. I started to almost think like, I'm not Native American, so I'm not going to try to appropriate their culture by I don't think I have a native animal or an animal spirit animal, but it was always a deer. And always I would this deer would give me something. He would tell me something of wisdom or whatever. And I had that whole process, and it was about a 15 or 20 minute thing. Yeah. And it was the more you do it, the more it became very real. Yeah. It was almost like a place I went to every day. It became so real.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
That reminds me of one of I don't know if it was the first or one of the first intentional visualizations that I did as an adult. It was when I was in a lot of pain with colitis 5 years ago. And I discovered that actually I could do meditations for pain, and that it would actually help, because it would have you rate your pain at the beginning, and then after you did it, they were like guided meditations. But there was one that was a visualization that was, I want to say it's either Jacob Stevenson or Jason Stevenson. He's my favorite on YouTube for guided meditations and visualizations. But there was one with a well that you would go to, and it would take you like through this library, and then like through this like secret door, which I love, because there's this like secret hobbit door, and then like you go through there and wind up in a forest, and there's like a whole journey to get there. And
as I'm thinking about mine, I'm thinking that probably the details are very helpful, because the more detailed, the more you're actually focused on that one thing. Yeah. The more detailed, the less easy it is for your mind to stray from that.
Yeah. It also, for me, it's really helpful to feel like I've painted a full picture.
Right.
To feel like, to see like in my mind's eye, like that I'm there. Because it becomes as real as what I see when I open my eyes, at least in that like moment. And it really does force you to be present.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, that's maybe a whole other video sometime. The next one, which is great for so very many things, is sunlight exposure. Hey. It says 3 times daily. I know I've read in a few places, possibly even more, but just very specifically trying to get some fresh air and sunlight for at least 5 minutes, like really close to dawn, sunrise time, like within an hour or two of that. And then at one point, at least like midday, maybe around lunchtime. And then again in the evening, close to like potentially even within an hour of sunset.
Right.
That helps your body sort of establish and stay on the appropriate circadian rhythm for your environment, which helps your body regulate hormones.
Would there be any work around that if somebody was in an environment, or in especially in the winter or whatever, where you basically didn't see sun for sometimes days, weeks at a time?
I have I have to look it up to make sure I'm calling it the right thing. Okay. So it is a light therapy lamp, is what they're calling it. The one that I have is from Circadian Optics. I guess it was on Shark Tank at one point. But I got a 10,000 lux ultra bright LED light.
Oh, you have one?
Yeah, I have one.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I don't use it here because there's not like a lot of need for me to.
Right.
Or if I become really insomniac for a little while, which can happen because Jack has called me a robot, apparently. I just work all the time. Then I will force myself to get up painfully early at that point, because it will be very painful. But and then I'll use this right away in the mornings, kind of as just I'm going about brushing my teeth and gargling and gagging, apparently, for my vagus nerve. So that helps your body maintain circadian rhythm, but you would not want to use that kind of light in the evenings, for sure. That would be way too bright. That helps just in the mornings to keep your circadian rhythm on a certain schedule. It's great for travel. I bought one of these for one of my nomadic friends as well, because if you're moving around time zones, obviously your circadian rhythm needs to adjust wherever you're at. So you really only want to use that in the morning, after within like an hour or so of the time that you want to be waking up, to try to train your brain, okay, this is the morning light. Even if you didn't get to go outside, or if outside doesn't have light, if you're not in that part of the world. So I do know that there are things like red light therapy that can be used for a variety of medical conditions, but I'm not really sure how that would interact with all of this. I don't know if that would be an evening thing. I'm not really sure. That's probably an interesting thing to research, so I might have to look that up. But as of now, I just don't know. They're also saying to make sure that you actually don't go like stare into the sun or anything. Just for like at least 5 minutes, make sure that your eyes are just exposed to the light, that like you're outside without sunglasses on, basically, because it's not just skin exposure, it's also eye exposure to the light. And then the last one, which might be a problem for some people, but they actually recommend sleeping on your side to help stimulate your vagus nerve. If you have trouble sleeping on your side, you can try putting a pillow in between your knees. I usually sleep with a memory foam pillow between my knees. I have like weird dancer runner hips and knees and stuff, so that is just more comfortable for me anyways. But yeah, I've always slept on my side. That's like always been the go-to spot for me.
I usually go to sleep on my back, and then first time I wake up, I flip over on my side. Yeah.
Sit on your side, yeah. Yeah. So those are sort of the things that you can do at home for your vagus nerve, which helps.
And a lot of them are just really easy to incorporate into your day-to-day. It's not like this big major thing you have to add to your daily routine. You can kind of do it while you're doing other things.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the main reason why I love these so much, because I feel like there's always this like, oh, if you're stressed, go do some yoga, do some journaling, which is great. Like, don't get me wrong, those are great things. But they're not always something that we have time for, or something that we're able to do at that moment. And a lot of these things are things that we can sort of check in and do. They're things that don't cost anything, that don't require us to be anywhere special or to own anything special. It's very easy to keep up with those. This book also has like weekly recommendations for your vagus nerve, and then like special kind of recommendations. And the weekly ones I think are really interesting too. The weekly ones I would add, actually, because one of the more special options that you can do is go see an acupuncturist, which is great. But actually on Amazon, something that I bought from there quite a while ago and use religiously is an acupressure mat. And that helps me so much actually with any pain that I'm having. Like, I'll get sciatic pain sometimes if I've been working too much and not like moving enough, or sitting in a car too much. Sitting is really like the worst thing for me. But then also if I have any like menstrual pain, it helps with my lower back, or I'll even lay on it on my stomach, like in my bed, and it works insanely well. I never would have guessed. But it does something similar to acupuncture. So I would believe, I'd be willing to bet that it helps stimulate your vagus nerve too. So then you don't have to actually go see an acupuncturist.
Right.
And you can spend like $18-20 and save some money. Acupuncturists are pretty awesome from what I've heard, but I haven't actually gotten to see.
No, I never have either. Yeah, no, I've had lots of friends that have gotten lots of good results out of that. No, I've never been myself.
Yeah. I have done sound healing before. That was awesome. I did that in Costa Rica.
Really?
Yeah, but I think the reason why I loved that so much was because the woman that I went to had such a comprehensive setup.
Right.
That she, it was kind of like the perfect situation. She had recently built this like cabina that was specifically for her practice. So she had the ceilings angled exactly how she wanted in these very specific acoustics, specific type of wood for like carrying vibrations, but also very specific kind of table. So like every noise that she made on the bowls was something that I felt vibrate up through this table, like physically.
I witnessed a few. That's it. They did there was the last year that I was at the Woodstock Fruit Festival, they had some people there that were doing them out there, and I watched them from a little bit, but never have experienced it myself.
I'm curious if anyone knows, like, something that's always confused me with that one is, I mean, I find the noise soothing anyways, but when they have like sound healing done in these group settings, I always figure everyone needs like very unique, like it's almost like a fingerprint in terms of how your body kind of needs to recalibrate. So wouldn't that be something that you would only want to do one-on-one? I'm sure somebody knows more about it than I do. So I'm just curious.
Yeah, that's the only way I'd seen it, was just, they would do it with one person at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think even in one of the Netflix documentaries, it might have been Heal, they had someone doing it as part of like actually like a technology thing. Like it had kind of taken the, I guess, humanity or culture aspect out of it, which was almost kind of deflating to me, but it was also super interesting because it was so sciencey.
Right.
So like in the process, he was sort of calibrating like the perfect tone and noise basically to help her rest and digest system activate, because he was also monitoring like her vital signs and her pulse and things like that.
Right.
So he was able to like immediately see the reaction that happened in her body based on different noises and sort of prescribe a specific sound to her. Was really interesting.
That is interesting.
Yeah. If you guys haven't watched Heal on Netflix, it's really pretty cool.
Yeah, that's you recommended that one. Yeah, I remember I watched that. I think I've watched that one a couple of times.
Well, you recommended it to me. That's why I watched it.
I think I recommended it to you a while back, and then I had forgotten about it.
Yeah.
And then you because when you told me about it, and then I watched it again, I said, "Oh yeah, I do remember a lot of aspects of this." Yeah.
Yeah.
No, great show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that's the video for today.
Cool.
Thank you so much for joining us.
All right, enjoyed it. Learned a lot myself.
Hope you guys had fun and learned something and were maybe entertained by our goofy selves. And thank you so much for joining us today. In the comments below, let us know if you have any questions. Subscribe if you want. Click the bell icon if you want, so you can be notified about future videos. And we'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.